all know companies shoving diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives into customers' faces isn't a solid business strategy. If you do diversity naturally, that is a great thing. But if you do it simply because it's on a corporate checklist, that is a major problem. And that is what people revolt against. And companies don't really know the difference. But Square Enix has an internal ethics department that over the years has censored certain content, forced certain content into video games, and really just made games more marketable to what they call global audiences, aka sensitive snowflakes across the world. And that is a major reason why they have faced major problems over the past couple of years, along with just not making high quality games that people want, or when they actually do release games with a higher level of quality, they end up falling kind of flat for people, story wise, and also gameplay mechanics wise. Though we have heard recently that they are going through a major shakeup, that they are firing lots of people. Square Enix is going through major layoffs. Hundreds and hundreds of people have now been let go. But we're also hearing the chief publishing officer and head of the Western branch of Square Enix has officially resigned ahead of the wave of layoffs. And really, if you take a peek at his social media presence, he has melted down in the past regarding woke criticism. So I think that, of course, it is always sad when people lose their jobs, don't get me wrong, but there are always going to be people I can't sympathize with. Individuals within the video game industry tend to be raging activists. They are raging leftists who do not want to listen to other people's opinions. And of course, there is a big disconnect between these large companies and their customers. They either don't know what we want or they have a general idea, but then they change it around so much from what we actually requested that then people end up revolting. Look at something like Assassin's Creed Shadows. We had asked for years for an Assassin's Creed game set in Japan, and it really shouldn't have been that hard. Have a male Japanese protagonist and a female Japanese protagonist. You add some really cool, unique Japanese lore and cultural references. You pick a good time period. And if they really wanted Yasuke in the game, they could have just made him a side character, maybe a companion who helps the main characters. But because they decided, oh, this is the person who is going to be our first playable protagonist, it raised a lot of red flags, and a lot of people saw through Ubisoft's BS that they didn't just do that because they thought it was the best story to tell. They did it for political reasons. And Square Enix is a company that makes a lot of decisions based on politics as well. And it's sad that Square Enix has fallen so much so fast because they have made some really amazing games in the past. They have some really amazing series. But this is another company that just doesn't always know what their customers want. And I do think a major problem is the people that they are hiring. We know that they have a lot of Western developers within their ranks, and they have hired a lot of snowflakes for positions like internal ethics departments. I think that that is an absolutely wild job to offer. I think it is insane that you are so against creative freedom that you have to have a department that looks over your developers' work to tell them what is socially acceptable in the Western market and what isn't acceptable, what can and can't be sold to the average customer, even though the average customer doesn't care about seeing, I don't know, large women's breasts in video games. Like, why do you have to censor Tifa? You're pissing off your established customer base, all to what appeal to a couple of snowflakes who weren't going to buy the product in the first place. But this individual right here, John Heineke, I think that's how you say his name, is the perfect example of the type of person that they have hired over the years. Now, he has actually resigned, which I think is so great, but boy, oh boy, has he melted down a bit on social media. So, the chief publishing officer and head of the Western branch of Square Enix has officially resigned ahead of the wave of layoffs. He responded, "Piss off," to concerns of woke ideology in video games, and he was the direct voice of the Western market to Japan. So, he has made a couple of posts that people are now screenshotting and bringing up. Here's the first one. "Yesterday, I announced to my team at Square Enix that I have decided to resign from my role as Chief Publishing Officer effective on November 21st. This has been a difficult decision as it means that I must part with a very talented group of high-performing and passionate coworkers and friends across the US and Europe. It has been my distinct honor to lead, to work alongside, and to learn from such an amazing team. I want to thank the Square Enix leadership team for entrusting me in this role and giving me such a fantastic professional opportunity, and I want to thank my teammates and colleagues for their support throughout my 7 years at the company. Finally, I'd like to thank all of the Square Enix players and fans for your passion and enthusiasm. Your energy keeps our teams fueled more than you know." So yes, he worked closely with Japan as a senior leader of Western publishing business, interacted directly with the CEO and leadership teams in Japan to illustrate needs and challenges in Western markets and to propose solutions. So he is one of the major individuals, the lead individual actually, who told them what was and wasn't acceptable in the Western market. He is based in Los Angeles, California, so you can already tell the type of person that he most likely was, and this could be very positive for gamers if they actually hire somebody who knows what gamers truly want. And he actually responded to a comment left by someone named Azif Zahor, who said, "When AAA starts pushing agendas gamers don't want to see, they pay for it by not buying the game. Fire the long-term failing CEO and the staff that embraced woke ideology." And John here said, "Oh, piss off," as if that isn't a legitimate concern when it is. There are so many companies who do focus on pushing agendas. They do focus on the narrative that they can shove in players' faces and the political statements that they can shove in players' faces instead of going into a project simply focusing on entertainment and creating a product that is going to be used as a form of escapism for people instead of responding to this concern in a very positive manner or in a very insightful manner, in a way that sounds like he was actually listening to customers and criticism. No. He decided to say, "Oh, piss off. You don't know what you're talking about. This isn't true. You're blowing this out of proportion. Absolutely ridiculous." And he is actually one of the lefties who cried about freedom of speech surrounding the Jimmy Kimmel situation. Disney dropped the ball on freedom of speech. Sadly, they value their pending merger more than free speech, which I think is so fucking funny. Coming from somebody at Square Enix, a company that has an internal ethics department that tells employees the way that they can and can't act, what they can and can't post on social media, and the content they can and cannot create for their video games. Where is the outrage surrounding freedom of speech and freedom of expression within the company you previously worked for? That's right, you didn't care up until it directly affected you. I hate people like this. You either are against freedom of speech and freedom of expression, or you are for it. You can't just flip and flop depending on what suits your fancy. It's like with the Jimmy Kimmel situation. We saw a lot of comments like this made after the Charlie Kirk assassination. We saw a lot of people take to social media and basically say, "Oh, freedom of speech is important," when they hadn't fought for it in the past. And they also aren't bringing up the fact that the Final Fantasy XIV forums were banning people for talking about the disgusting behavior of their localization team. But of course, that doesn't matter to them because they don't actually care about freedom of speech. And now people are on social media pointing and laughing at John's resignation. I personally am not going to shed a tear for him, especially after the comments that he's made in the past. People are saying things like, looks like Azif got the last laugh. Maybe we will get some class RPG style games again from Square. Thank you for all of the detail info you provided. It's incredible to see how the western branches of Square are getting decimated. Square Japan really listened. It isn't just about wokeism, which I agree, but I do think it is a very major part. Once again, I have alienated our target demographic, Square Enix in a nutshell. These are the positions that are poisoning the entertainment industries. They position themselves as the sole authority on what audiences want, and companies take their suggestions at face value rather than investing in independent sources. Good riddance. Not that it changes back to what it's supposed to be around 2015. Finally, gaming is healing. We all knew this was going to happen eventually. I'm glad it's finally here. So yeah, I'm not going to shed a tear for all of the people at Square Enix that ended up getting fired and let go. And of course, as I always say, I'm certain there are a few good apples in the bunch that were let go, some actually talented and passionate developers, but the issue is that the well has been poisoned to the point where I can't sit here and really feel all that bad. So the chief publishing officer and head of the western branch of Squeenix has officially resigned ahead of the wave of layoffs. And funny enough, in the past, he has completely dismissed people's criticisms regarding the state of the video game industry, the state of Square Enix, and people are pointing and laughing at him on social media now. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this important and informative, make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.